This is why you always do not have money in your Momo, in your bank account, whatever. According to the World Bank, 1 in 5 people live on just $3, just under $3 in a day, like in Ghana. Like, that's crazy. With a population of 38 something million people, when you think about it, in Ghana, the large population of this country is not even the middle class. Like, we're living in abject poverty. And so oftentimes we pay attention to Accra and say, oh yeah, because of the high-rise buildings and beautiful places in Accra, you think that Ghana is good. But no, if you go outskirts of, even in Accra self, there are individuals who are living hand to mouth. And that is why mainly I'm doing this video. I'm going to be showing you places where you should look out for if you always feel that the money that you're making is not enough and your pocket is bleeding dry.
Welcome to our channel, where we explore the intersection of finance and film.
The number one place I want you to pay attention to is your food cost. So oftentimes you depending on how you buy your food stuff. So if you live alone, and you're an independent young individual, so someone like myself, I live alone, I don't necessarily buy in bulk. I don't necessarily buy in bulk because I buy what I need. And oftentimes we are told, oh, if you buy in large quantities, you tend to save on money. But that is rarely the case if you live alone. By all means, if you live with family, it makes sense to buy in bulk and then like prepare food down and then like meal prep and all these things, right? But if you live alone, sometimes it even makes sense for you to buy food outside rather than cooking at home. So those are the things that you need to pay attention to, because the high rise of food costs is like, it's crazy. Like the food market right now, the groceries, we call it food stuff. Food stuff is very, very expensive these days. And you need to pay attention to all of these things. For instance, I did a quick research and it says that just in 2025, things like ginger, a 76.7% like increment. We have like something like plantain is up by 69.5. Charcoal, that is if you use charcoal to cook, is 66.8. That's risen by 66.8. As an individual, as a young person, we need to pay attention greatly to the way we manage, like how you buy your food stuff contributes heavily to whether you're going to feel your pocket bleeding or not. And one of the things I advise a lot is that try to meal prep in your head for the week. So for instance, if you know that you work a 9 to 5 and maybe you go to work and come back and you'll be probably tired to cook and all of these things, meal prep in your head. So it makes sense to probably go to the market and buy things that you need that's going to sell for like the week, so you can stock them in your fridge and just microwave and then like heat and eat but before the day goes by. Because if you live in a high a high purchasing environment, for instance, if you live in places like East Legon or Legon, places like that, food is expensive. In Ghana, the area you live in determines how much you pay for food. So I always I would advise that you make sure you have that at the back of your mind. So for instance, let's say a pack of rice in Adenta is probably going to cost like, let's say 10 cedis. East Legon, you can't get that same food for 10 cedis. You're going to get it for like 30, 35 cedis, even 40 cedis a pack, and you need to factor all those things in your budget, your income budget, before you plan your food stuff and how you're going to buy your food. So you need to check and see, okay, does it make sense for me to cook at home, or does it make sense for me to buy food? Always put into consideration the food, the area you are in. Always put into consideration how the pricing structure of food in that area makes sense, and always put into consideration whether buying food outside or cooking at home makes more sense. Food cost access is one of the areas that you should really, really, really pay attention to, because food spending on food can bleed you dry, if you get what I mean. Number two is banking fees and mobile money charges. I talk about this a lot, right? That if you watch some of my videos, you get to understand that I talk a lot about charges and the unseen charges, like hidden charges in banking transactions in Ghana. So I did a quick research as well in Ghana. I will not be lying if I say, I will actually not be lying. Ghana is one of the countries that charges customers high fees when it comes to banking. If you look at it currently, if you go on the Ghana Stock Exchange, like top 10 companies that are very profitable and are doing well and their stocks keep rising, most of them are in the banking sector. Most of them are doing really well. And I think all that boils down to not just because like it makes sense to have a bank, but it's just because in Ghana we pay more just to have financial transactions ongoing. And I did a quick research that says that as of end of September 2025, the Bank of Ghana has released its update survey of bank charges, reflecting a landscape marked by new digital fees and mandatory foreign fees. So if you look at, for instance, GCB, which is Ghana Commercial Bank, introduced a 15 Ghana cedis monthly. So that's their service fee. So monthly fee of 15 cedis, and then which is a 1% fee on mobile bank to wallet transfers, and then it is capped at 20 cedis, right? Now, I did a quick math, which I'm going to let you take a look at. So for instance, right? So let's say you have a bank account with GCB, right? Maybe you're a government worker, because I think mostly it's the government workers that have a bank account with GCB anyway. So you have like an account with GCB. So let's say a savings account, or let's say a checking account, and you get paid 5,000 cedis. So you have what's it called? End of year, you're going to pay 180 cedis for banking transactions, like for just having an account with them. You're paying 180 cedis for that. And let's say you make 20 mobile money transactions. Let's say you make 20 mobile money transactions, right, in a month. So let's calculate that. So let's say 20 mobile money transaction, and then we cap it at 100 cedis. So let's say in a month you send 100 cedis to different people. I'm just capping it at that. That's the average I'm using. With the GCB's 1% fee on transactions, you're going to get how do you call it? You're going to get 20 Ghana cedis for a transaction, right? And then now your salary of 5,000 cedis, now that is going to be at 4%, right? So don't forget, we chose an average of 100 cedis per a transaction and 20 transactions monthly, right? So that will be 20 cedis times 12. So 12 months, right? So that's 1 year. So just by 20 transactions that you're going to be doing, you're going to get 250 cedis, right? So 250 cedis is going to be the 1% transaction fee. So that's going to be 180, which is the what's it called? The monthly fee yearly, like just by owning the account, how much they charge you, the service fee, that the 15 cedis service fee that they charge you, that's going to be a yearly is going to cost you how do you call it, 180. So if you add that to it, you're going to have the total, you're going to have 420 cedis. So let's say you earn like 5,000 cedis every month, right? Just in transaction fees and charges alone, you're going to pay 420 cedis to the bank. They didn't do anything, just by you withdrawing money and transferring money. So if you don't have any other source of income, that is going to eat into your money. And that is like a hidden cost that we mostly do not pay attention to when we are probably drawing our budget and things. I think moving forward as a young person, if you're drawing a budget for how you spend your income or how you spend your monthly income or anything, your expenses, you need to find out which bank you save at, or maybe which mobile money network you use. And then like you need to factor in all the charges as well, because those things are things that can bleed you dry mad, like a lot. The other things that bleed money in our pockets a lot that we don't pay attention to is buy now, pay later schemes. Like personally, for me, I strongly believe that buy now, pay later, like, is one of the genius legal ways that sales company decide to like steal our money. Imagine, so this is how buy now, pay later work for those of you who don't know. So for instance, you want this phone, you can't afford the phone, but you go and say, oh, let me give you 1,500 for the phone. Maybe the phone costs 10,000 cities, just by way of saying. And then you say that, oh, they will ask you to put 1,500 cities down, and then you pay a monthly. Now, forgetting that there are other hidden charges that you don't know about. At the end of the day, you end up paying times two of that amount if you don't take time, or even more. Mind you, if you default, you're going to pay interest on that. If you don't pay on time, you're going to pay interest on that. If the phone get missing or get cracked, you are still going to get paid for it. So imagine you go put yourself in that sort of predicament, and then maybe you're walking by the road and somebody snatch your phone. You are going to be paying for something that already you've lost, but you are still paying for it. It doesn't make sense. I did a research on this thing, and apparently it's like a big business, especially here. So if you look on here, it's a current financial data 2024 and 2025 supports your consent. So this is when I input the research in. Buy now, pay later can create a circle of debt, particularly for young consumers and those who are already facing financial constraints. So if you look at it currently, I think the people that the sales companies are targeting a lot, or these companies are targeting a lot, is we the young ones. Like, there's always this FOMO, fear of missing out from like the latest iPhone, the latest gadget, the latest what. And it's like, I need to get this, I need to get this because my friend is using this, I need to get that. No, you need to put yourself in a position where you always have the power. So if you can't afford it, do not go and put yourself in a situation whereby by the time your income or your salary even comes in, now with the car, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why a lot of people do that, but yeah. So statistics on debt and financial vulnerability. So overspending the budget, approximately 53% to 57% of buy now, pay later users admit to using these services to buy items they could not afford. So it also says here that less than half, which is 47 of these users actually budget for their payment before making a purchase. Roughly 24% of these users report spending more than they intended to because of the buy now, pay later option when they are checking out. So basically what this research is trying to tell you is that you go in to buy, for instance, let's say you go in to buy, for instance, an iron. You know, maybe you go to a Paramount to buy an iron if they have this, maybe Telefonica, all these companies, right? And then you go in to buy an iron. But then you see a steamer, which happens to be cooler. However, it's expensive, like it's way above your budget. But then because there is a buy now, pay later option, you opted for that, knowing fully well that you cannot afford that. So you end up paying so much interest on something you can just easily afford, which will also like just do the service for you. Like whatever you're going to use that for the item is going to serve its purpose. But because you want to look cool, you go in and opt for the buy now, pay later option, and then it ends up like bleeding your pocket dry. I don't understand why people do that, you know. And these are some of the rules for buy now, pay later that most young people don't pay attention to. So late payment rates are rising nearly 24% on buy now, pay later users. Missed a payment in 2024. So for instance, according to this, if you miss a payment, so because you pay monthly, and let's say you pay like the charges monthly. So for instance, the phone costs 10,000, like we said. You put down a down payment of 1,500, and monthly you're supposed to pay 500 cedis or maybe another 1,500 cedis every month before you pay off. There's an 18%. That's one thing you people don't know. There's an 18% interest on the 500 cedis that you are paying, not the 10,000 valuation of the phone. No, each time you default on that, the 18% also roll over, or the 18% goes into the next batch of payment. So you end up by the time, if God help you and you're able to finish paying, you end up paying more for something that you probably had maybe grown out of. If it's a phone, probably you're probably looking at the newest phone has come, like latest phone has come, and then you are still paying for the one that will bleed you dry. Stop it. as a young people, we need to always start making wise financial decisions. We always need to like question things, start looking at the value of things, and then rather stop focusing on the cost of them. Like, pay for value and not for the fancy nature of all these gadgets. You know, and he says here that among Gen Z, the rate of missed payment is significantly high, with some reports citing that up to 33, 39 to 31% of them. Like, most Gen Zs these days cannot afford to buy stuff, but because there's a buy now, pay later option, they opt for those options, and then they default in the debt, and then now they have to like end up paying extra interest on those things. It really is bleeding us dry as young people. So over time, you end up accumulating a lot of debt, which doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all. So for instance, it says here that the local market is currently at a tipping point. As of late 2025, major players like MTN, Momito, and Liptap Pay. So these are like some of the, I know when you go to the MTN office, you see there's the sales section where they sell phone. I think they have a partnership with all these other phone brands. That I'm using phone, but this applies to a lot of other products on the market. Even when you, for instance, you want to go and like just buying something that, for instance, food. I don't know why somebody, like back in the day, we used to do that like in the village a lot. You go to the nearby shop and take food stuff, and then you pay later. I don't know how that makes sense, but like, well, that I get it because it's like it's essentials, right? But like growing up now, I think about it. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. So like we need to. That's why it's very important for us young people to try and change the narrative. Let's try and make sure that we put ourselves in the financial positions where we don't make the kind of mistakes that our parents did back when we were young. Like we see them now, you think about it as a young person, you're like, really, this didn't make sense, right? But yeah, Otifie, then you see some woman that sell yam to you that you ate on Monday, the woman or now Umaneka. Like I don't get it, but yeah, okay. That's something that I think we should really, really pay attention to as young people if we want to grow financially, if we want to see our money, and if we want to make good use of our money. I'm going to try and link all the articles and then all the research papers that I used for this video under it, and then you can look at it. So I mean, it's crazy how we don't seem to pay attention to a lot of these things, right? But where you spend your money and how you spend your money heavily depend on your personal philosophies, your spending culture. So you might end up making 10,000 Ghana cedis, and someone might end up making 1,000 cedis. But because of their personal monetary philosophy, they tend to live a better life than you do. And you, because all the time you want to spend on this thing, you want to spend on that thing, there's always that clutter in your life. Like you're missing something. You always want to buy something. And that puts you in a very, very strong financial jeopardy. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.